Morning. What's shaking? Welcome back to Alright, what's next? We're going to attempt to make some wood chain. I need chain for a project that I'm gonna make, another piece of freaking wall art. But I gotta freaking make chain. First thing we gotta do is we gotta make some jigs so we can batch out freaking links. I imagine I could probably make them just with the bandsaw and a bunch of fucking carving and it would be a pain in the ass. But I want to be able to batch these things out. Now I seen this done a while back. Steve Ramsey, what's his channel called? Woodworking for Mere Mortals. He did a video on it and I'm going to try and replicate this. Now his video, he replicated the process from a book that he had, a complete guide to routers or whatever. And I watched his video and it's like, you know, that doesn't look all that fucking difficult. I think I want to go ahead and give it a try. I want my chains to be not significantly smaller, but smaller than what he made. He was using, I believe it was 3/4 inch MDF. I've got a whole bunch of 1/2 inch MDF, which means I've got to have an extra step into my process because I'm going to have to take my my 1x4 material, construction material. I'm going to have to run it through my face planer and grind it down to a 1/2 inch for it to work. Because I want the chains to be relatively small. So with your typical frickin' chain, the length of your chain is going to be double what the width is. And the overall diameter of the chain link is going to be the same diameter as what your gap is in the center. So if you've got a 1/2 inch freaking gap in the center, it's a 1/2 inch round bar that goes around, and it will be, what was the math? It would be 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch. So you're at 3/4, so your link is going to be 1.5 inches long. That's all bullshit. I have no idea how typical chains are freaking made. That was just something that I just made up. But you were watching, it's like, really? I did not know that. And you still don't know that, because I don't know how fucking chains are made. It's metal that goes through a thingy and it fucking does things. First thing we gotta make a fucking jig. Well, several jigs, actually. And we're going to use this. This is going to be the base for one of the jigs. This is going to be the base for another jig. These are going to be turned into jig parts. And I'm gonna cut this into strips. Hopefully, I have enough. The first thing we need, Forstner bit. The jig is up and gone. All right, 1/2 inch Forstner bit. Now we gotta do some layout here, because I love layout stuff. We don't particularly care. This is, let's see, call it fucking 9.5, so 1/2 of 9.5, it's 4.5, 4 3/4. It's 11 long. 1/2 of 11 is 5.5. All right, right there. We need to come over 1/4 inch. Now, I'm gonna take this over to my drill press, drill this out quick. So we got our 2 holes drilled. Now we gotta play connect the dots. I'm gonna take this, throw this in my jigsaw, or scroll saw, and cut that out. That's what we got now. All right. Now we're going to take this guy, we're going to lay it on here, and is this pencil going to work good? We need to trace this out. We got the center of that traced out. Now I gotta go cut this out. Well, shit, I guess I'll use my bandsaw. I'm gonna go cut this on the bandsaw quick. We're finish shaping it over on the sander. There we go. Okay, what you want is a relatively snug fit, both top and bottom. Fuck, it just ripped a whole goddamn layer off of it. That ain't good. We gotta glue that back together, otherwise it won't be fucking tall enough. Where's my super glue at? There we go. All right. So we got that one. We got that one. Now what we want, we need our outside diameter. Okay. So we're gonna trace this guy onto here. And all we need that for sizing purposes. We want to come out a 1/2 inch on all sides. All right, let's see. We need to round over the edges. That ain't fucking big enough. I need a better round over dealing jigger. Let's see, what do I got? What do I got? We're not gonna get that critical. What we're gonna do is we are going to go wah, and freehand this. That's what we got there. I gotta, good? No, I don't have to drill that center out. Okay, I gotta go and cut this out on my bandsaw quick. Okay. That's gonna be the overall size of our link. So now a little bit of frickin' glue up. We need that guy onto here. Fuck me. You know what? That's not the one I want. That's the one I want. Okay, never mind the fuck me thing. We need to take this thingamajigger and glue it onto that thingamajigger. That is a technical term. Get that good and fucking soaked with activator. And dun 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 dun. Okay. That's glued on there. Then this has got to get glued onto here. Jig 2. Okay. Now we need some strips. Before I make the strips, I have to determine the size of my link boards that I want to place in here. So let's see. This is 1.5 inches roughly. So if we make this 1 3/4, so I have to freaking have, I'll make 1 3/4 inch blocks this way. So off the center, what is half of 1 3/4? 7/8? That sounds about right, doesn't it? Hold on, I gotta have some thinking juice. Let's see, go over here. 7/8, 7/8. And that gives me, well, you know, 1 3/4. Good God, I'm not very smart. All right, we got an overall length of 2-inch lengths. So if we cut these, center this guy up, which I don't have a frickin' center line. Let's see here. How long is that? That's 1 inch. So if we go 1 1/4 that way. One 1/4 that way. All right, so that's gonna be the size of the block of wood that we need. So we have to freaking rip all of our boards down to 1 3/4 inches by 2.5 inches. So now I just have to have something to encapsulate it. All right, so my camera shut off. I'm not exactly sure where I left off. Let me see where we're at. Shouldn't have been that long, but I've got these guys glued up just like this. So I've got the outer diameter and the inner diameter glued up onto this board. This is just the inner diameter. What we're working on right now is we have to cut a platform right here that a board will sit down into. It is going to be, what did I say it was, 2.5? It's 1 3/4 by 2.5 inches. So I'm gonna take this and I'm gonna cut it into chunks and we're gonna glue it onto here because we'll have a board sitting in here. This is gonna be our router platform. And I am out of beer. I'm gonna grab a beer and I'm gonna go freaking make some cuts quick. All right, got the blocks. Jig 1, done. Okay. So now we need to basically put a box around this. I think probably our easiest way, we want a 1 3/4 by 2.5 box. All right, I'm gonna go drill a hole in this and I'm gonna cut it out on my scroll saw. This has got to be double high. This will work. I'll cut this quick. All right, I got the jigs done. I don't know if they'll work. We'll have to wait and see if they work. Now, I didn't get to record all of the assembly because my memory card ended up getting too full and it shut the camera off and I wasn't paying attention that the camera had shut off. But what you missed out on wasn't much. I mean, pretty much, you seen how I got all of those center pieces in there, and then I just took MDF, and for this jig you got to have 2 layers high so it's freaking level all the way across for that that knob right there, and you'll see what that's for. Hopefully this works shortly. This one, I think it was on there where I glued these pieces on there, but I fucked them up. I didn't realize I glued these 2 strips on too close, so if I would have left it like this, I wouldn't have had enough wood in order to make the outside of the link. So I had to break them off and then re-glue them. And well, I had to cut new strips because when I broke them off, they all tore to shit. Okay, then I have, this was a 1x4, about 3 foot long. I ran it through my planer until it got them down to where they are exactly the same height as the MDF is, within, you know, extremely freaking close. It's not exactly, but it's close freaking enough for government work. These will be the individual links. Then I ripped them on the table saw to get them down to this width here, and then took them over to my radial, or fuck you call that thing, miter saw. Cut them all to length, and you want them to fit relatively snugly down into your jig, because we're going to have to router this and we don't want it moving around. So what we got to do, we got that hole in the freaking bottom right there. We can take this over to the drill press just like this and pop a hole in there, because we're going to take this flush trim bit here, this what is it, a 1/4 inch? 3/8. This is 3/8 flush trim bit. So we're going to go over and we're going to drill a 3/8 hole right down into here. I guess I could actually I could probably use the same size right there, and that's just less material that I have to flush trim out. That's a good idea. I'm glad you thought of it. We'll use the same size of freaking Forstner bit for them holes to drill that out. And then this is just gotta go and connect the dots. Good thinking. Okay, so now I got a big pile of freaking shit. I gotta move my camera here. That's fucked up. Zoom out. There we go. Ah, yeah, much better. Now you can see my ugly face better. Got them all drilled out. I also put reference marks on each of them. Just a little freaking line there, little line there, over on this jig. That way they always go back in the jig the same direction. At least for right now. So, hammer it down in there. Now, if you have any that have a little bit of play, then you might, if you weren't like completely 100% balls on with your freaking accuracy, and you've got a little bit of play in here, you don't want that. You know, when you made these jigs, maybe you were freaking half pissed up and didn't spend a lot of time squaring everything up. That might be your problem. Wasn't my problem. I wasn't freaking pissed up. I'd only had like 12 or 13 beers. But anyways, point of this is I make mistakes so you don't have to. But if you've got a little bit of play in there, which this one does not, just take a little tiny piece of sandpaper, fold it over, shove it in there, get your trusty pocket screwdriver and shove it down in there. Make sure it doesn't move around. Because you're using a flush trim bit on a freaking opening, you don't want your piece of wood sliding around, otherwise your opening isn't going to be right. So now, I already got my router set up with the 3/8 flush trim bit with the bearing on it, to where the bearing is just below the surface of the 1x material, so it'll ride on the MDF. Some of these guys fit in there a little tight. All right, that's what we end up with. Reference mark, reference mark. That fits on there like that. Okay, and route all of these out. Get that guy out of the way. Slide him over here. Now when you make your jig, make sure you got enough room on the outside that your bit can pass down in there so you can get started. And so this one's damn fucking close. Which, it's too close. I think I just broke my fucking jig. I did. Motherfucker. It broke right on that damn line that was broke before. I did not quite make my jig quite big enough. I've got to have somewhere for the router bit to go down in and get started. This is not going to work. MDF is not going to work. God damn it. I got to remake this puck. And I got to make it out of, I'm going to have to make it out of wood. Hopefully this bottom one will be all right. And then I think I got to try and remove more of this material. All right, so that's fuck up number like 75 on this project. It's probably something you can expect if you don't actually work from plan. You're just working from what's up here from a video you've seen months and months and months ago. So I remade the center puck here out of a freaking leftover scrap piece of this stuff and tested it. Here is my first link. That fits on there nicely. Now, something else I figured. Don't expect this thing to do all the fucking work. So I took this link and I traced it onto one of the other frickin' blanks and cut off most of the waste over on the, the bandsaw. Yeah, bandsaw, that's it. That thing over there. So once you got it on there, now it's set down on there, you just take your frickin' router, and on camera have the fucking thing explode. We gotta glue that one back together. God damn. Fucking routers. Link 2. All right, so got to go really fucking slow on that sensitive end grain. I wonder if it'd be a little easier if I made this out of something other than really cheap fucking pine. Probably not. Anyways, now I have to do this process 10 more times, and then we can move on to the next step of the process. So, once again, shutting that camera off, crank my stereo up, and I'll finish the rest of these frickin' links. I got all of my links routed. One thing I figured out real quick, when you have it mounted on here and you're trying to route this outside, that better be fucking tight. If there is any wiggle room whatsoever on that link, when you run that router around it, it's gonna move just a little bit and that bit's gonna grab it, and then you're gonna wind up with this. It will fucking explode. So I lost 2 links in the process of trying to figure it out. Now the last step in the routing process is putting a little bit of a round over on them. Now I already went through and I've got 2 of them rounded over. They need probably just a little bit more finish sanding on there, but that's what I've got so far. Now in my experimenting, I ruined another one. This was not having a very well set fucking router bit. It, chewed the shit out of this one. So if you're gonna do this, definitely make extra. Now the final step here, what we're gonna do, I'll show you real quick. We're gonna route this one off, and then we're gonna make a link. I'm just taking this little piece of shredded sandpaper, laying it on there, and when I go to shove this down on there, let it grab the edge of that sandpaper and sucks it down in there and makes it extremely snug. Without that thing, yeah, it's a disaster. Hey, you know what? I routed that side already. We should probably do the other one. Oh, sandpaper's sticking up. You definitely don't want the sandpaper sticking proud of the board. If it does, your router tends to not freaking want to go around. All right, the outside is now rounded over. I'll take it over to my bench sander there and smooth off the lines a little bit, but we still got to do the inside. Now the inside, I was kicking around the idea, should I make another jig to hold it? Because obviously it's not going to fit in that one no more. my solution, which seems to work works good enough for me. I got this here Black & Decker Workmate. And just slide this guy in here, make sure it's slightly freaking proud. Tighten it down. Keep the router held up a little bit until it comes up to speed. There's a nice little rounded over link. Do a little sanding to it quick. So definitely make more than you think you're gonna need. I wanted 12 and I made 12 and I ruined 3. So now I'm down to less than 12. But I do believe it's going to be more than long enough for the project that this is going to be used for. Now, when you make these things, what you want to do is make sure of your grain pattern. You want your grain running the long ways of the chain. Because if you have your grain pattern running this way, it's extremely weak, and this is going to be your pulling force. Where this is the weak direction, which isn't the pulling force, which is important for this next step that I got to kind of figure out real quick. Let's see, I think we're going to utilize, once again, the Workmate. Clamp that thing down in here, just like that. And then, because this is cheap construction pine, we should be able to, hopefully, yep, snap it off, just like that. Now we could use wood glue, but I'm going to just use a little dollop of super glue. And I mean, just a little, because you don't want this spooging out and gluing your other freaking board together. And I'm going to refrain from using activator on it for right now. Because you want to get these things lined up really well so it hides the crack. So I'm not going to use an activator because and all of my hard work is for nothing. I made the fucking links too fucking big. You can only get one link in there. I was worried about that. But that's how you make a chain. I'm gonna have to go back through and do a lot of fucking sanding and reshaping on these things in order to make them fit. God damn it. It's gonna require a Dremel. And I'm gonna have to break this one back apart. Fuck. Okay. I got the chain done. It turned out pretty freaking awesome. And it moves like a real chain. It looks like a real chain. Once I get this thing painted, you won't ever be able to tell it's wood. It'll look like a goddamn metal log chain. I got, what I start with? 12, I think. 12 or 13 links is what I started with. I wound up with 9 links after multiple, explosions. Got roughly a 10-inch long little chain here. It took a hell of a lot longer to make than I thought because my jigs didn't work as I was hoping they were going to work. They would have if I would have made them correctly, but I was making them just out of my memory. I did not have a set of plans to work from. It was from a video that I had seen several months ago. So all in all, because I did this out of memory, trying to figure it out as I go, they were okay. What I ended up having to do, because I didn't make the dimensions right, is I had to take each individual link over here, grind them down a little bit thinner on there. Then I had to take the outer dimensions of them, adjust them just a little bit on the disc sander. Then I had to take the Dremel with a small drum sander on there and open up the insides more and then round them over better. And then I went through and snapped them all in half and glued them together. Now I've got a really nice log chain. This is going to go to the next build project. Well, I don't know if it'll be the next build project, but it's going to be a build project that's coming up here in the very near future. If you've watched any of my other videos, I made a sword out of wood not that long ago. This is going to go along the lines with the sword. It's going to be another medieval weapon. So if you played D&D, you might be able to freaking guess what it is, Joe. Let's talk about my fuck ups and why my jigs didn't work. We'll start with the fact I made them all out of MDF. That seemed like a good plan to start with. MDF is extremely easy to work with. I had a bunch of scrap laying around, so I didn't have to spend any money, which was the best part. But MDF for this application wasn't right. It's somewhat weak for this. Like, for one thing, when you've got your piece down in here and it's really snug and you've got to remove it, it ended up, I don't know, breaking the MDF right here. It just snagged, peeled it up. So MDF was not the proper choice for this. I wanted it because it was exactly 1/2 inch. When you buy MDF, if you buy 1/2 inch MDF, you get 1/2 inch MDF. It's not like buying lumber where they got the stupid sizing things where 1x4 is 3.5 by 3/4. I should have went and just bought me a 1x4 and then milled it to the size that I wanted. Now, starting with the hole right here, I use a 1/2 inch Forstner bit to drill that hole. Since that is 1/2 inch, using 1/2 inch MDF should have been a fucking indicator that it's not going to work. I'm using the same dimension of wood that's going to try and go into there, so it's going to be too tight a freaking fit, and you're not going to get this nice freaking free-flowing chain effect. It's just going to be a tight, snug fit. Okay, I know that now. What I'd do next, I would still use the 1/2 inch Forstner bit, but I would use that 1x material and I would mill it down to 1/2 inch, and then I would run it a couple more passes through and take it down to maybe not quite down to 7/16 of an inch, but probably close to that. That way I know that each individual link will fit through this hole. Plus, I think I would take this hole and this hole and I would separate them out probably by another 1/16 of an inch. So this would be just a little bit freaking longer. And if that's a little bit longer, then of course, you know, these dimensions over here are going to change. Another screw up with this one here, that after I got it all made and realized what it was, this opening and this opening needs to be the exact dimension of your link. So this outside diameter, or outside dimension, side to side, is what this dimension should be, and your length is what this dimension should be. That way, when your link is routed off on the other jig, you can just bring it right back over here, shove it down into here, and it will fit nice and snug into this opening right here. And that'll allow you to use this as your guide to do the rounding over portion. Where, with the way I have it set up here, I had to use that fucking workmate and clamp it into the workmate and freaking round it off. It still worked, it did all right. I got it all rounded off, even though I had to round it all off again with the fucking Dremel because I screwed up my jigs. So that's pretty much the issue with this one. This hole needs to be just a little bit freaking longer, and these dimensions need to be the same size as your link. Plus, it'll save on wood. You can make a lot more links out of a piece of freaking lumber because you would be reducing that block down to this size. With that, since you got a smaller block, there is less material over here to route off. Something else I would have done, this bottom puck right here, I would have made it slightly narrower and slightly longer. It would have worked better. It would have made the inside opening bigger, and it would have made the side to side smaller, so each individual link would have fit together better. And since I'm using a block of wood, that is the same size as the finished link, other than the corners aren't rounded off. When you stick it on here, there is very, very, very little material that would have to be routed off. And with that, you could also, before you freaking stick it in here and route it, take it over the bandsaw, cut the corners off, and then there's almost nothing to be routed off. It's just a real quick round, and now you've got a round freaking link. With the MDF, like I said, was not a good application for this, because this is my original center puck that, you know, was supposed to go onto here. As soon as it went under even the slightest amount of stress, it just snapped off, because this shit is just like nothing more than pressed sawwood with glue. There's no side-to-side lateral strength to it. That's not how this stuff was designed. So I had to go back and I had to make a new center puck out of a piece of pine, which was fine, but the only thing is I was frustrated, and I was just trying to get this done because I wanted to get these links done so I could move on to the next step. I got a little aggressive on my sanding, and I made it a frickin' hair too small. And when I put my links on there, there was a little bit of frickin' movement to it. And what I figured out really quick, there can't be any frickin' movement. You go and stick your link on here, and have a look at this. Yeah. And see how much movement there is to that? What happens as soon as that router goes around, it grabs it and just twists, and with that little bit of movement, it just explodes, and you wind up with that. So I was just taking strips of sandpaper, tearing off strips of sandpaper, relay it on there, shove it down so it was a nice tight fit. Once I started using sandpaper so I get a nice tight fit, no more exploding links. I was able, fucking fly. I was able to get the rest of the links ground off. The jigs work marvelously well. If I would have gotten the dimensions correct, done everything, now that I know what I did wrong, I can make these again. And you could batch out links stupid fast. Once you have these jigs done, you could probably make a fucking 20-foot chain in an hour. You know, this is 10 inches. Once I had these all done, I was able to route them out super freaking fast. It's a great setup. It's a great design. I guess I should have went back and watched that video more and took better notes, or maybe even bought the book that the jigs came out of. Like I said, I got it from Steve Ramsey's Woodworking for Mere Mortals, and he got it from, I think it's called The Ultimate Guide to Routers, or some, I think that's what it was. I don't remember. It's been a long time since I watched the video. Anyways, I'm really happy with my chain, even though it took way goddamn longer than it needed to, because I didn't make jigs properly. What you can take from this video is I can't do anything fucking right. Never on the first try. Anyways, I hope you learn that. What would you learn from this? I don't know. Probably not much. Well, shit. Anyways, thanks for watching, guys. Don't forget, subscribe, turn on the notifications. I'll see you, probably won't be next time, but here soon, we'll be making another weapon. Bye.